Okay, let's talk about Curse of Strahd. When I was a kid playing second edition D&D, Loft came out, and my friend wanted to run the Loft adventure. I tried to play in this adventure, and I was too scared. I'm kind of a scaredy cat kind of guy. I get, especially when I was younger. It was too scary. Just couldn't do it. So never finished that game. When 5th edition came out and Curse of Strahd was announced as one of the adventures, I was determined to play Curse of Strahd. There was a lot of people that wanted me to run Curse of Strahd. There were a lot of questions that I had to field. Why aren't you running Curse of Strahd? Why haven't you read Curse of Strahd? Have you watched anyone else play Curse of Strahd? Every DM I encountered that wanted to talk about being a DM, they wanted to talk about Curse of Strahd because it was such a great campaign and it was such an influence on them, either as a player or as a DM. And for many, it was the greatest campaign they ever ran. But I didn't want to know. I didn't want to hear about it. I didn't want any spoilers. For years and years and years, I avoided every possible spoiler for Curse of Strahd. It was absolutely incredible. A lot of people had to be removed from servers and from conversations about the spoilers they tried to drop for Curse of Strahd, but I remained pure. Eventually, one of my favorite DMs offered to run the game. It was going to be IRL. Made an amazingly cool character. I got art commissioned for it. I made a custom miniature for it. I got custom dice for it. I was very excited about it. And about 6 to 8 weeks into the campaign, a lot of crazy stuff happened. A lot of tragedy, a lot of life happened. And the campaign fell apart, as campaigns sometimes do. And I was heartbroken. And I considered trying to find another game to join, and um, I considered running my gothic horror setting that I had made because I was kind of salty about not having, an opportunity to play in Curse of Strahd, to the point that, as an experiment, I made my own gothic horror demiplane when Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft came out, and I thought about running that, but there was a part of me now that was invested, right? I had met Strahd, I had been in Barovia, I wanted to know what happened. So, started to read the adventure. I gave up on being a player. And I got to tell you that the hype is real. It's a great campaign. It is phenomenal. It is one of the best sandbox scenarios I've ever seen. There are very good moments of horror. There are just the theme is well respected throughout the entire adventure. Are there things that need work? Yes. Fortunately, it's the most popular campaign for 5th edition D&D, and it's been out for like 5 years. So there is a mountain of fan-made content that mods the game, that patches the game, that fixes the game, that makes the game better and more interesting. Gorgeous maps, amazing music. Just every resource you could possibly imagine exists for this game, and it is making the prepping process so amazing and exciting and wonderful. And everything I listen to and read about this campaign makes me excited to run this campaign. Excited to run this campaign. I am happy that it took me this long to finally run Curse of Strahd, because the dungeon master that I have grown to be is going to do some amazing stuff with this campaign. The dungeon master I was 5 years ago, I think, would have run it well, but would have struggled, because I personally feel that as a full-fledged sandbox, it is not an easy campaign to manage, not an easy campaign to prep, and not an easy campaign to run. 5 years later, with all the resources and the tools that are available, certainly makes the task easier. It's still, to me, a very daunting campaign. And fortunately, I feel that I have grown to be a dungeon master of significant skill that could handle this narrative, that could handle this adventure, that could keep those themes going. the major themes are going to be horror and sort of holding on to your morality and your identity, your sense of self, your sense of purpose, your values, that sort of constant eroding of your soul, um, the grit of it all, the pressure of it all, the horror, just constantly weighing you down, pulling you down, challenging you to hold on to who you are at any cost, while also offering you easy routes to power so you don't have to suffer anymore. These are the themes that we're going to be exploring in this campaign. As I was thinking about it and thinking about these themes, it came to me that an isekai game, which is to say, a game where, or a story where characters from one world are pulled into another world and need to um, survive, right? Would be the perfect setup for this game. Why? Because that's literally how it's written. The game is in a demi-plane. You start as a party of adventurers, raw, that are in Forgotten Realms, but it could be from any world, and you guys get pulled into this demi-plane, and it is just a reality of horrors, and you have to figure out how to survive, and you have to make it work. Um, I wanted to take that a step further and do the more traditional modern isekai of these are modern day characters from the real world, and they get sucked into the demi-plane of dread, and how do they deal with it? Now, I felt like this is a perfect fit because in order to keep the game challenging, in order to keep the game scary, in order to keep the players and myself constantly on edge, constantly worried about their survival, I'm going to remove access to all spellcasting classes. So it's going to be fighters, rogues, and barbarians, and then a few homebrew things thrown in there. And that's it. You won't be a wizard, you won't be a cleric, you won't have any magical healing to help you out. It's going to be very, very gritty, very, very dangerous. It will create value for every powerful NPC that you could meet and ally with. It's going to make spellcasting enemies absolutely terrifying. It's going to make any magic item you find feel like the greatest discovery of all time. It's going to make the moment that you discover how to craft uh, a consumable magical item that you could then use Simon Belmont style against your enemies. It's going to feel so satisfying to finally have those abilities and know that you had to work really hard to get them and know that you had to craft them yourself. Um, yeah. So why did I choose modern day isekai as the starting point for this? The idea here is that, without too many spoilers for the campaign, heroes are chosen, often seemingly at random, and pulled into the mists, into the demiplane of dread known as Barovia. And within Barovia, they are tested by the Lord of the Realm, Strahd. Why they are tested, what they are tested for, you find out during the campaign. But over the centuries, he has pulled in and tested many heroes from many different worlds. It occurs to me that Earth is a world, right? And it's as good a world as any to try and test some heroes from. But in this modern day world, are there any heroes left, sort of thing? So the idea is it's also sort of a theme of what is a hero. Is everyone a hero? Does everyone have the potential to be a hero? Can a normal person be a hero? So I wanted to explore that by just taking a group of modern day human beings and having them, through misfortune, end up in the demiplane of dread that is Barovia, and now they have to find a way home, or they have to maybe just find a way to survive, or maybe they see this as an opportunity for something more, something that they couldn't have in the real world, but now the possibilities are endless. These are the kind of themes that we could explore. So I wrote this document, and we're going to talk about it. And because I feel like it's important that people applying for this game have a sense of why things are the way they are and why I made the decisions that I made. And it might be easier just to have people watch this video than to have to field a bunch of private messages. So the document says, uh, Curse of Strahd, uh, player primer. This is Curse of Strahd, the most famous, infamous Wizards of the Coast adventure for 5th edition D&D. I will be running it with additional content, homebrew rules, low to no magic, mature content, and meat grinder difficulty. You will play isekai, real-world modern people transported into a fantasy world, heroes from Earth, United States of America, Seattle, the year 2022, that find themselves pulled into a demiplane prison overflowing with nightmares and horrors that slowly erode the morale, morals, and minds of the heroes as they struggle to find a way out, or perhaps they discover a new purpose. So that's the elevator pitch. Um, Character creation information. I'm allowing basic humans, the ones that get a +1 to all 6 stats, and I'm allowing variant humans, but both of them have restrictions. A lot of restrictions in this campaign. I want to tell you that less is often more. It might not feel like that, but it's true. Less is often more. When you have constraints on you, it forces you to think more creatively, and it makes you explore avenues and options that you had never considered before. So bear with me on this. The basic humans that get a +1 to each of their 6 stats also receive a permanent +1 to any one skill and any one saving throw that's supposed to be chosen in character creation. And you gotta explain via your backstory why that skill and that save have that bonus. They cannot be changed later. They're hard coded in. The variant human may only choose one of the following feats, and if the feat does have a racial requirement, they can ignore it. But you got to explain why you have this feat as part of your backstory. So, you have actor, athlete, chef, durable, fighting initiate, which means you just get a fighting style. Firearms specialist, grappler, healer, inspiring leader, keen mind, mobile, observant, poisoner, prodigy, second chance, skill expert, skilled, skulker, squat nimbleness. If you do choose this, your character's, maybe like a real world dwarf or a person with dwarfism or just a very, very short person. Maybe you're playing a kid, and that would explain why you have that ability. Tavern brawler and tough. From Valda's Spire of Secrets, I'm allowing Early Riser, which is absolutely overpowered for this campaign because it has to do with hit dice, and hit dice are going to be a very important mechanic in this game. Fickle Fortune, good if you're really bad at dice rolls, or you just you like tracking your rolls and stuff like that. Field Commander, Gambler, a little bit of work, but it could be fun. Iron Hero, Precognitive, and Showman. Now, Precognitive does hint at like psychic abilities, and you'll see later on in the class section that I do allow the Psychic Fighter and the Psychic Rogue. Showman, I have seen in several games now. It's a very powerful feat. You probably don't want to sleep on that one if you're into bonuses to your rolls and stuff. From the Grim Hollow setting, we're going to allow hulking figure. So your character will have to be, pretty big to kind of justify it. Iron Gut and Nimble Physique. I am going to allow 3 different starter feats. I would prefer that among the 5 players, nobody take the same starter feat twice. The starter feats that I'm allowing are Child, Elderly, and Survivor. These are free to take because they have benefits, but they also have penalties. Some of the other starter feats are good, but they sort of like deal with disabilities and missing limbs and missing eyes and blindness and all sorts of other stuff, which will inevitably happen to your character in this campaign. So I figure why rush into that sort of thing. Then we've got your stats. So we're going to do a group generated array. So each of the 5 players and then myself will roll 4d6, drop the lowest, and then that will be the stat array for everybody's character. If you're familiar with my Witchlight game, this is not like the Witchlight game. You are not playing 2 characters. You are not a real world character who's trying to turn into a fantasy character. You are not going to have to manage 2 different character sheets. You are just going to be this character, and you got to figure out what you're going to do about being in Barovia. All right. Let's see. Alignments are not going to matter. It's a rough game. Now, the 9 alignments are represented within the game, and they are rather loose. They simply represent intentions. Um, it's not like you're not bound to your alignments. The thing that I care about is no matter what kind of characters you make, we're going to have 5 characters that can work as a team and that have good party cohesion. That's what we care about. As the campaign progresses, there will be times that this loyalty, this teamwork, this cohesion is tested. But to start, everybody needs to be making stuff that works well together and plays well together, because this is a team game. This is a group experience, etc., etc. All right. Grim Hollow transformation system will be used. Basically, there will be opportunities to become a were-raven, a werewolf, a vampire. I mean, it's all in there. A horrible abomination, a demon, an angel. There will be chances to become more than you are, if you give up on your humanity, essentially, if you embrace the dark powers of the world. So that's a whole thing. And it doesn't impact your character class or your starting stuff or anything. This is just something that can happen to you later on during the campaign. Custom advanced backgrounds, we might use it if everybody is down for it. What this basically means is if your background is businessman and you were using advanced backgrounds, you might be able to invest in and or start a business in one of the villages in Barovia, and then during the course of the campaign, it will grow, and then the benefits you gain from it will grow. So depending on what sort of backgrounds you play, it will have mechanical benefits throughout the campaign if you spend some time maybe side questing or looking for opportunities to improve your background. It actually can have an impact on the game world and also mechanically on your character. Your starting class is going to be a custom class designed by me based on your isekai character concept, and you're only going to get a single level of this custom class, and so therefore you're going to have to multi-class when you get to level 2. Now, what I mean about custom class is maybe you make a middle schooler who loves computers, right? This guy's going to have a hard time in this world. I'm going to make you a core class that touches on the fact that you are a middle schooler, that you're an American middle school child who is into computers, and kind of see what mechanical D&D benefits we could sort of create in a level 1 package to represent that character. Almost everybody is going to start the game with a D8 as their hit die, unless of course you have a background story that you are, a pro athlete or a former military or an active military person. Then you might be doing a D10, but you might have less skills, et cetera, et cetera. Your saving throw proficiencies are going to be tied to whatever sort of stuff your character does, with one strong one and one weak one, which according to D&D, the strong saving throws are dexterity, constitution, and wisdom, and then the weak saving throws are strength, intelligence, and charisma. So that's how that'll work. Your character needs to be a local or visiting the Seattle, Washington, Everett, Washington, Pacific Northwest, United States of America area/region. The campaign is going to take place at an Airbnb cabin, aka Cabin in the Woods, located near Mount Rainier National Park. Your character needs to have a family or an explanation about why they don't have one. This is important because if you have a family to get back to, that's a roleplay motivation why you're trying to escape from Barovia. If you don't have a family to go back to, that could be a motivation for why you want to make it work in Barovia, why you want to look for opportunities there. It could also be this adventuring party is my family, or maybe you lost your family and that's why you do everything you can to prevent other people from losing their families, and so on and so forth. It's important for this campaign, in my opinion. You need to have a job or career, or an explanation about why you do not have one. So, in the middle schooler example, if you are a student, that could be your job, right? Maybe you were a television talk show host, but you got canceled. So you're going on this camping retreat to kind of reground yourself and figure out your next move. But God damn it, you were on top of the world and now you have nothing, right? So like it could be anything, right? Any sort of character you want. It's the beginning of a horror movie. You are making a character that is about to experience a horror movie, a real world character that's about to experience a horror movie. So you're going to begin play with a companion character. So every one of the 5-player characters is going to have one companion character. This companion character is going to be not as well developed mechanically as you are, but they have the potential to become a support character. But they also have potential of just being horribly killed in the first adventure. This is, for lack of a better term, this is going to be horror fodder, right? Is your companions. This is to make things scary, make your character realize what a terrible situation they found themselves in. And if that character survives, give you something to protect, something to cling to, something to hold on to, something from your previous life. You and or your companion character need to be connected to the other characters or companion characters. So we need to be able to draw like a web that in some way connects all 10 of these characters together to explain why they are going on this camping retreat together. So it's sort of a technology purge, unplug, stay at a cabin in the woods sort of vacation. So the perfect setup for a horror. You'll begin play with 5 real-world item tokens. So at any point during the campaign, if you have one of these item tokens, you can cash it in for a real-world item that would make sense for your character to have on their person. So a cell phone, the keys to your car, maybe a first aid kit, if they had a reason for that. Their school backpack, their work briefcase, on and on and on. Their grandfather's watch, whatever you come up with. And the cool thing about it is you don't have to come up with it ahead of time. So if you do find later on that you're like, it would be so cool if my character still had this from the real world, maybe you do. And then once you get to level 2 and beyond, classes and subclasses will unlock. You can multi-class into them. And for the first class that you take, we're not going to do a multi-class in the traditional sense where you only get partial parts of that class. Whatever your first class you take, when you get to level 2, you'll get the full package as if you took it at level 1. So that's important to note. There are restrictions in the classes, and they are listed below. Interesting mechanics. Interesting is a cool word for this. Horrible mechanics that we're going to be using from Giphy Darker Dungeons. We're going to use Active Initiative, aka Popcorn Initiative. I feel like it's more tense, more dramatic, and it gives the players more narrative control over combat. I know there's people that don't like it. I know there's people that get caught up in the meta behind it. You just got to let it flow. You just got to let it happen. Trust me, it's going to make a better fight, a better combat. It's going to be a much more interesting experience. Lingering death saves, which will clear after initiative closes. So while you are in initiative or in combat, if you have death saves and you're popped back up, your previous death saves will stick around. They will not get zeroed out. So dropping yo-yoing in combat is very, very dangerous. HP yo-yoing in combat is very dangerous. Sanctuaries are required for long rest. Sanctuaries are safe places in the world, like towns, churches, things like that. You will need long rest to level up. So if you're out in the middle of the woods and you hit a milestone, that's cool. You still have to make it back to a town or a safe place to level up. Potions are going to be huge in this game. They're still going to be limited by potion toxicity, and that potion toxicity limit will be tied to your constitution modifier. There may be changes made
to the healer, to the medicine skill, about it allowing you to drink potions without penalties. I want medicine skill to still be important, but it may have an action economy tax affixed to it to kind of maybe drain your reaction or something like that when you activate that. See World Doc for more information. There will be harsher diseases and curses. Everything from Van Richten's Guide and beyond. It's going to be in here. Going to be pulling stuff from Kingdom Death, all sorts of terrible places to get. Warhammer Fantasy. We're going to get all sorts of terrible stuff up in here. Make it as horrible as possible. In the DM's guide, there is something worse than fear. It is called horror. So if you get feared too much, or if something is specifically a trigger for your character, then you might just skip from fear to horror. Horror can cause insanity and all sorts of other mechanical issues. Speaking of sanity, there will be a sanity score. You want to keep that high. There's going to be a stress score. You want to keep that low. Stress score mechanically is extremely punishing, so you want to do everything you can in between adventures to get zen, basically, because if you go around hella stressed out, you're gonna just your performance is gonna be terrible. We're gonna use milestone XP, so I mean, I just hate it. That's how I do it. Do it milestone XP now. Succeeded at cost will be a thing. I'm gonna revise these tables once again over the summer. They will be ironed out a little bit, and the outside of combat succeeded at cost penalties will be made significantly higher, or possibly removed. I don't know. Maybe succeeded at cost should only be an initiative, adrenaline-based thing. Still considering it. There is a new mechanic called succeed at any cost. We're using fate points in this. Fate points are basically extra lives. You can sacrifice a fate point to basically succeed at whatever you're trying to do. So even if you just failed miserably, you can be like, no, I have to succeed at this. And it'll be really bad for you if you do it. And that'll be limited to only once per level, and it will mess your character up pretty bad. We're going to use maneuvers from A5E. Not a lot of maneuvers. The amount of points that you can spend on maneuvers is going to be very limited. All maneuvers are going to be subject to nerfing and playtest rules, right? So if they're just not working, or they just seem to be kind of weird, we might either tweak them, fix them, or have you take a different one instead. A5E maneuvers will not be limited by your class or multi-class choices. They're just going to be based on your character level. This campaign will have firearms. Obviously, if you're coming from the real world and you're going on a camping trip, you might have a gun with you, a hunting rifle or something. But within the world of Barovia, I am giving them Renaissance level technology. So they will have firearms, they will have black powder, they will have bombs, things like that. Craft that kind of stuff in the game. Healing surges per the DM's guide is going to be a thing. So I believe it's once per short rest, I want to say. You can, as an action, use a hit die to just feel better. So it's like some self-healing. It's important because there's just not a lot of healing in this game. There's no healing magic in this game. Even healing potions are going to be hard to craft, expensive, etc., etc. There will be diminishing returns. So we don't have magic to bring you back from the dead, but maybe some people in Barovia do. But either way, when you come back from the dead, it's always less than you were before. There are fate points in the game. Everyone will start the game with 1 fate point. Fate points can be earned by doing amazing things narratively, killing extremely tough opponents, things like that. So fate points, as mentioned earlier, can be used for succeed at any cost, but they can also be used if you would die. So if you would die, you can cash in a fate point to do one of the following. You can go out in a blaze of glory, meaning you do some serious damage, or you kick some kind of serious ass, or you finish some important task on the way out, but that character's dead and gone forever. Time to activate one of the support characters, or make a new character that's a native to Barovia. Your isekai journey, I guess, is over. The other 2 options will be generated from a terrible table full of terrible things inspired by Kingdom Death, Wildermyth, and other games that use diminishing returns rules. So you might lose, if a werewolf attacks you, they might bite off your fucking arm. You just don't have an arm anymore. Alright, so yeah. DM's Guide actually has a section on serious injuries and the mechanical effects of those injuries. We're going to be using that. Turns out the DM's Guide is full of stuff that's good for dungeon masters. It's like a dungeon master's guide almost. Anyways, let's see. We talked about renewable fate points. There will not be a traditional Crash Gem B team system. Support characters will be there, but they will always be in danger. But they will be able to provide a more constant ongoing benefit. So my B team stuff is normally set up with very minor passive abilities and occasionally some very cool activated abilities. The support characters in this campaign, it'll be more of a constant passive ability, but there are a physical body on the field that is in danger, but that can also do things actively. They're not going to take up initiative per se. In fact, we might just assign them the same initiative as a character, and then they kind of double up. That NPC will go on the same turn as that player to kind of keep the initiative tracker nice and clean. Which kind of goes off of the companion system. So it's going to be kind of a companion support system, less of a B team system. We already talked about Grim Hollow transformations, and we're going to use a Solasta crafting system. So take it directly from the video game Solasta. There will be recipes to make things. You will learn the recipes to make things. You will get the things in the world to make the things that you want to make. You will announce, I am currently working on this based on the tools that you have. You'll be able to make different things. So tool proficiencies are huge. And also intelligence is huge because intelligence is the primary skill for all crafting. So even though there's no wizards and there's no intelligence warlocks, it still benefits you greatly to have intelligence for the crafting part of this game. Because I want all characters to be able to craft, and I want crafted items to feel very valuable and very important, I am not allowing artificers, I'm not allowing craftsmen, and I am not allowing alchemists. So, just putting that up front. On the class restrictions, if you do not see the class subclass you want to play listed, contact me. I will probably say no, but it's worth a shot. If it's not listed and playable, consider all Valda's options not allowed. And then there's a link to the resources that I'm mentioning. Right off the bat, no artificers, no bards, no clerics, no druids, no monks, no paladins, no rangers, no sorcerers, no warlocks. Right? I mean, it is a demi-plane of dread. Find somebody to teach you. Maybe. And no wizards. This is because as earthbound characters, you just don't really have a spark of magic. You have no connection to the weave of the multiverse. Earth long ago forgot magic, turned away from magic, and abandoned magic. So, as a modern day Earthling, you're just not going to have what it takes to learn magic. So that leaves us only three things: barbarians, fighters, and rogues. You might say that's not enough. Look at how many fucking subclasses there are, guys. Barbarian, Path of Ancestral Guardian. You got spooky ghosts helping you out. Path of the Colossus. You get big. Path of the Battle Rager. You dress up in a spiky costume and you hug people. Path of the Beast. You're sort of like a werewolf, but not really. Path of the Berserker, fueled by hit dice. Oh wow, you can actually be a cool berserker. That's nice. Path of the Fractured is Jekyll and Hyde. Path of Heavy Metal. It's literally a bard variant. Path of the Primal Spirit, you get a dope ghost wolf. That's cool. Path of the Storm Herald, I don't know what to say, it's pretty bad. But it will give you access to energy magic, so, I mean, that could help. Because we are using monster weaknesses to kind of offset the fact that you guys are not going to have magic. Monsters are going to have weaknesses associated with them. Think Witcher games, right, where the monsters are very, very strong, but there are ways to deal with them. We're going to be using stuff like that in the game. With fighters, I will allow Arcane Archer. Arcane Archer is so bad that maybe in a game with no magic, they could be good. So something to think about. The Battle Master, the Bone Knight, that's pretty gothic horror. The Brawler, punch and beat people up. The Bulwark Warrior, a nice tank option from Grim Hollow. The Cavalier, I mean, I'll kill your mount over and over again. I don't know if you play a Cavalier. Celestial Lancer, honestly, is a bit too magical, but I love the idea of a Final Fantasy Dragoon. Maybe not the best setting for it, but I threw it on the list in case anybody want to play it. Champion, tried and true, good stuff. We use max crit dice, so Champion's pretty good. Dungeoneer is kind of a nice fighter rogue combo without having to multi-class. Echo Knight is a bit OP for this, but we'll go with it. Gunslinger, because there are guns. Living Crucible is basically a no magic witcher. You just make potions that only you can benefit from. You drink them, and it like modifies your body and stuff. So it's like self buffs. Psy Warrior, because there's a little bit of psychic stuff going on there with those Earthlings, and that will synergize with Soul Knife if you wanted to do a multi-class. Purple Dragon Knight, it would definitely require some kind of reskin, but mechanically it's got some interesting options, so I left it in there. Rune Knight, who doesn't want to get big? And then Samurai, I mean, it's just a really fun fighter subclass. In Rogue, we got Assassin, we got a homebrew called Edge Slinger, which specializes in thrown weapons, particularly daggers. Enforcer, which is a strength-based rogue. I believe they can get sneak attacks with any weapon, which is pretty cool. Grifter is sort of a bard without magic. Highway Rider is a rogue with a horse or a mount. Again, I'm going to kill your mounts, but it's cool if you have them. Inquisitive is fantastic. Mastermind. Phantom, it's spooky and magical, but not too spooky and magical. Scout, if you wanted to play Ranger, there you go. The Soul Knife, that synergizes well with the Psy Warrior. Swashbuckler, it's fantastic. Thief is going to be really, really useful, I think, because of all the crafted consumables that will be in this campaign. Amongst the homebrew classes, you got Gunslinger from Valda's. The only two I'm not allowing are the High Roller, because it's just too much work, and the Spellslinger, because it's a spellcaster. But if you're into guns, this campaign is going to have guns. So you got a lot of gun options in addition to the Gunslinger fighter. You have all of these other gunslingers that you can play as. The Marshal from A5E, I think it's pronounced Zeitgeist. I don't know for sure. There's 3 subclasses in here. All 3 are allowed. The Marshal is basically the 4th edition Warlord. So if you want to play a Bard or a Paladin-esque character, or just a leader type character, Marshal is a fantastic choice. They buff and aid their allies non-magically. Pugilist is replacing Monk, so just if you want to punch shit, you want to be a wrestler, there's also a pet class here where you have a dog. The dog just cannot die no matter what, which is kind of comforting. So anytime the dog would die, you just hug it, love it, and kiss it, give it pats, and wake up and it's not dead anymore. The only one not allowed for Pugilist is Hand of Dread, because it's basically a warlock pugilist. There is the Savant from A5E Zeitgeist. This is basically a skill monkey. It's another good replacement for Bard. So if you're looking for some support, some non-magical support class, Savant definitely can fill that role. And then I'm allowing the Warden. The only one not allowed from Warden is the Soulblood Shaman, which is a spellcaster. The Warden is a very passable tanking class. So if you wanted to go tank, there are options in Barbarian and in Fighter already, but Warden is very much the brand is tank. And then there's going to be A5E maneuvers for all heroes. The points you gain are extremely low and extremely slow. This is to kind of give you a taste of A5E maneuvers without A5E maneuvers sort of taking over the game. You can take a look at them. They're basically cool things that you could do without magic, and most of them are combat related. Homebrew that I'm considering using, Monster Weaknesses. I am going to pick up that book, and we're going to apply Monster Weaknesses to all the monsters. Bloodied and Bruised by Anne Gergeson is going to be there to make monsters even meaner. And we're going to use all of Anne and Hammond's harvesting stuff. Hammond's for the boss monsters and for the other monsters. This might be your only source of magic, and definitely a good source of magical consumables and magic items. I'm also going to be using Home Field Advantage. to make boss monsters even more powerful. And then eventually, we may start to ease up on how incredibly deadly the travel is in Barovia and switch to campfire. But that would be mid to late campaign that we switch to campfire. Otherwise, traveling around Barovia is in and of itself an adventure, and it is quite deadly. So, that's the player primer. That's my spiel. This is why I want to run Curse of Strahd. If you're still here after 40 minutes, I hope you're interested and apply for the game. Hit me up on Discord.